All right, welcome back to the Radical Independent. I'm Dave. Please subscribe to the channel. I just lose subscribers every day, and the channel is being throttled down. Um, I'm okay every so often talking about Tulsi Gabbard. If she says something or does something that's interesting, I will fulfill my Tulsi Gabbard obligation to the few that remain because of Tulsi. But this channel, we've kind of moved on. I've kind of moved on. But I do talk about things that I think are important. I do have guests on like Charles Anderson and Stacy for Truth, and maybe a few others. I'm working on another guest from a completely different perspective that I'm looking forward to having on, but haven't gotten word yet if that's going to happen or not. Today, I want to talk about secession, the S word. It's a real thing. If you pay attention to Tim Pool, who's got a very big platform, and he's got people from the center left, the center right. I think probably the most populist channel, really, when you look at his perspective, and a real sharp guy, was part of Occupy Wall Street and ended up being 100% right about the 99% and the 1%. 100% correct about that. I know it's a lot of percentages there, but Tim Pool has stated recently, based on a Newsweek article, that 66% of Republicans in the southeastern part of the United States, that's say Texas up to Oklahoma, and then kind of over to say North Carolina, maybe including like Tennessee and Kentucky, probably not Virginia, obviously, but down to Florida, including Georgia, even though Georgia seems to be almost like a purple state now. I don't really think it's a purple state. I think in the weeks ahead, you're going to find out it's not a purple state, but that's another video. Anyway, in that part of the country, it appears that 66% of Republican voters want to secede from the United States of America. Out west in California, in places like Oregon and Washington State, 33% of Democrats want to also secede from the United States. Notice how it's lower for Democrats wanting to secede there. It's twice as much for Republicans. And here's why. Whether you're a Democrat or a Republican, and I consider myself to be an independent Constitution type person, with some progressive sympathies. In other words, I understand why people want health care. I get that. There are some demands that the true progressive left makes that I can listen to. And my thing is, if there's a way to pay for it and we can do it locally and we don't have some top-down big administrative thing happening. And again, it comes down to cost. And is it good for the people who are actually getting it, or is it just like basic bottom line coverage? I will listen to it. I would entertain an idea like that. I'm okay, for instance, with forgiving student loan debt one time. Of course, when the government does this, what they do is it's always a thing. But it's weird how of all the loans that get written off, people who go to college, right, and they're sold a bill of goods about college, and then they get out, and then doesn't happen the way, the counselor in high school or whoever told them, this is, do this and you'll get a job paying $80,000 a year. It doesn't happen. So then you're left with this huge debt and you've got no way out of it. And you can't get a job that will pay down that debt. That system is rigged. So I do believe that some college system could work at the state level where, number one, you could go to the college tuition free. I think you have to prove yourself academically in order to do that. Number two, one time, all of this student loan debt should be forgiven, since we're printing money and we're bailing out foreign countries, or we're giving it to foreign countries. And the foreign countries are sending more people here, which is going to make it harder to educate people. I mean, you can go left or right on this issue and come to the same conclusion that we need to fix the problem. Like we need to fix immigration. We need to find out who's here. So getting back to the secession thing, though, I do think that we are at a crossroads where it's irreconcilable. How do you fix it? Every day people say, I know how you get involved, I believe in we the people. Tulsi Gabbard ran this campaign. And people would say to her, Tulsi, this doesn't look possible. What are you talking about? And Tulsi has this faith in the human spirit, in the human condition, that we can overcome things. I do too, but I just don't see that there are enough people that actually want to do that. Hence the 33% on the West Coast. Now, I'm all for, hey, if you guys want to go, I know the eastern slope of that mountain range that goes from, Washington, Oregon, and California, the eastern side of that slope, it's all red country. Those are red areas. And in California, they want to do this state called Jefferson. And I believe that's more the northeast corner of the state. And in Oregon and or Washington, the counties to the east of the slope want to be part of Idaho, and they want to call it Greater Idaho. Now, to do that, you have to get all the state legislatures together, and you have to have votes, and it's really complicated. It can be done, but it's I think you have to make a lot of noise about it for a long period of time. It's almost as if, your wife or your husband, right, is a lost cause. And you're thinking to yourself, okay, do I make their life miserable or do I cut them loose? And if we are a peaceful society, which I think we are for the most part, even though there's a lot of violence, and mostly the violence is in those places that, those urban areas that are just out of control, and they want to get rid of police, and getting rid of the police is just, this is so easy, people. It's like you get rid of police, you're going to have more violence because people know no one's going to stop me, right? And I know there are some bad cops out there, but one bad apple don't spoil the whole bunch. You know what I mean? And it might be more than one bad apple. The point is, it's a stupid idea and it's making things worse. And many of those states like California, Washington State, those are lost causes. So rather than having a conflict, and Tim Pool talked about this, where you have to fight some kind of a civil war over this, just say, you know what, like get some paperwork and have people sign the paperwork, submit it, and then have the borders redrawn. That's what you need to do. And also, this is what we did when we left Great Britain. We said, you guys, we're no longer tethered to you guys. We're basically writing you a breakup letter. That's what they did. They said, this is why we're breaking up with you. And then Great Britain is like, no, you can't break up with us. We're sending troops in. All right. I think America in the year 2021, why do we need to send troops in? All right. We're dissolving our partnership. Now, of course, the feds are going to worry because of tax revenue, right? But they're just printing money anyway. Let them continue to do what they're doing. If you want to still be part of this not so perfect union, then go ahead. And then you're going to have people telling you what to eat, what to inject, who to associate with, who not to associate with, and that list gets bigger and bigger every single day. They're telling you now via Facebook that your tweets are not your own property, or your text messages, your Facebook Messenger messages are not. It's getting crazy. Jen Psaki right out in the open. Yeah, we're partnering with Facebook to stop disinformation. The government starts telling you what is and what isn't disinformation, the fact that you can't think for yourself and come to a conclusion, as if you have brain fog and they are the clairvoyant people. No, I don't. And see, this is why people want to get out. They listen to what's happening in DC. They listen to the rhetoric every day. there's so much division that they keep sowing when it comes to race relations, when it comes to gender identity. All of these things, they keep sowing incredible division among people that could live peaceably, even if they disagreed with their neighbor, right? They could say, okay, I don't agree with that guy. But, now it's everything is political. If you wear something on your face, that's a sign that you're political. It is. I'm sorry, it is. And yeah, in the Republican Party too, it's not all, you know, roses and, you know, good quality cheese. I don't know. I was going to say roses, wine and roses. I don't. It's not all wine and roses over there. There are a number of governors in these states that are authoritarian. Look at the state of Ohio. Really crazy. So it's not about if you have an R and a D, although the D's are fairly reliable when it comes to tyranny. And so there are a lot of people that are tired of it. I would probably fit into the Constitution Party. The more I look at their platform, I could probably fit in there because there's a moral component to it, which I think is really important because right now there is no morality in government. It's all corruption. And it's justified by the fact that there is no morality and that everything is kind of relative and you can kind of make it up as you go, which to me is incredibly dangerous and foolish. And it's got us where we've gotten to now. And this started in the 1990s, the whole Bill Clinton thing, which again, I would take the 90s over anything that's happening right now. But that started it all. And then obviously the division happened, the election of 2000, where supposedly George W. Bush won by 500 votes and the Supreme Court decided it. And probably his brother Jeb Bush pushed that along a little bit because it was Florida that had the hanging chads. And since then, it's been back and forth, and some elections are worse than others. And now we've got, I think, some serious problems in the voting and what happened last November. But, Joe Biden is currently the president of the United States. I want to state that for YouTube and everybody else. But it doesn't, in fact, that has pushed a lot of the red staters, a lot of the red pilled people. It's pushed them. And by the way, red pill does not necessarily mean GOP. All right. It doesn't. It just means that you're not a cultural Marxist, or you believe in freedom of speech, or you believe in the traditional family, or you believe that the Bible is the word of God. Any of those things come into play. And there's lots of common ground and unity there. I tend to be open to some progressive ideas like Medicare for all and paying off student loan debt, because I think that whole thing is a scam. And it's weird how you can default on every other loan and eventually they will write it off. Your credit will suck for a while, but then things will get better. With student loan debt, that never happens. So to me, that's some kind of a weird, we gotcha forever and you'll never prosper. You're supposed to go to college and then make something of yourself. The whole thing is a scam because it should be geared more toward vocational skills, because that's what we need in this country. If your infrastructure is crumbling, you don't create more psychologists. It doesn't make any sense to do that. You need to encourage people to get out of these so-called STEM fields and get into where your hands get dirty, but you make great money. You go home, you work hard, you play hard, you sleep well. Those are the kind of blue collar jobs that used to be the norm in America, but now we're trying to make everybody into a techie, and not everybody wants to be a techie. And again, this would work better for laboratories in the States if they didn't have the constraints of the federal government and the nonsense that they put out every day. The priority isn't to make your life better. It's to just divide the citizens against each other. And it's so overwhelming. The evidence is so powerful now that, again, a peaceful divorce, and it's like from Texas to Oklahoma, Kansas, Nebraska, South Dakota, it would be a weird shaped area. I mean, some of the Midwest and obviously Great Lakes in the Northeast, down to DC and Virginia, that would all just go by the wayside. New Hampshire, I don't know. Maybe they wouldn't want to go, but I think they would be lumped in. I think geographically they'd all be together. So anybody in New Hampshire, you might want to move to a warmer climate and head south. That's what I would say. Um, but yeah, there's a whole region that would be a powerful red state area. And then your blue states, and then you have these cities that are in, like you have Austin, Texas, inside of Texas. So I don't know what happens with that. You tell these people, oh, you got like a year to get out of here. You got, because we're taking everything back. I don't know. I don't know how you do that. But if it becomes, its own country or its own region, which this is very far fetched. Tim Pool talks about it. I listened to him. I did the research. Newsweek magazine, something like 66% of Republicans in the area I described, or I'm just going to call them red state or red pilled people, because you'd be surprised how many people aren't part of a political party because they hate them both and think that the Republicans just talk and talk and they don't do anything. Jenna Ellis, who worked for Trump, just left the Republican Party because she thinks the whole thing it's meaningless. They're just corporate Democrats, and they like capital gains taxes. Ooh, wow. We'll get rid of some capital gains, or they like to get rid of them. And it's like, yeah, let's make the wealthy people wealthier. And there is a populist uprising both in the progressive part of the Democratic Party and with this whole America First notion. Huge cultural differences, not enough right now probably to unite us. Free speech, no surveillance, free Julian Assange. I mean, you go down a list of things that we agree on, right? And we should stick to those things. By the way, for you libertarians, I just don't see enough there. I see a party that is too buckshot, too all over the place to really be a force. I mean, yeah, you're on the ballot and maybe something will evolve and I'll take a look at it. But my tendency is, if you want to affect some change, you need to go into the two-party establishment and try to mess the establishment up. But the whole point of this video is to talk about secession, and I think we are probably beyond the point of no return. So I would be pro-secession myself. If somebody called me up, I would say, yeah, it would be way better. For libertarians too, if you want to decentralize, there's no better way to decentralize than to leave the federal government, to leave the Federal Reserve banking system, because you'd have to do that. And it would be a little bit scary for these states, probably. There'd be an adjustment period. There'd be a withdrawal period, like a drug user who would have to come clean, have to get clean. That's what would happen in these states. And you might be paying a lot for certain items for quite some time. And then some states would actually be encouraged to make their own stuff rather than importing it from foreign countries. It'd be weird. Maybe all the Dollar Trees and the Walmarts close down. They might have to. I don't know. Or they might move to the blue states where, they can continue to get all their cheap stuff, their crappy stuff that falls apart and is probably made with chemicals that are going to hurt you and so forth. I don't know. But it's a messy thing. It would be good to see one state do it and see how they do. Like if Texas did it or Florida did it, it would be good to see what happens to those states. How do they interact with the rest of the country? Those borders at the highway, you'd have to have checkpoints, I would imagine, like going to Mexico, going to Canada. To just commute freely might be a bit more difficult. And some states might not want you in their state. They're already hinting that, with contracts, that they don't want to do business, like California doesn't want to do business with Florida. We're already there. This is the thing. That's why you need a peaceful divorce. And as much as I think idealistically we could fix it, we're Americans, we can get this thing back on the track. You might get your own state back on the track, but you're not going to get the entire country back there with you. People don't think like you do. And if you say words, they think you're a fascist or you're this, you're that. And you're like, what? And it's like that book that was written years ago, like men are from Mars and women are from Venus, or vice versa. I can't remember who's from where, but it was this, you don't understand. There's no way to relate to this. You have to be able to understand where these people are coming from. And there are many people, especially in the red areas, that don't get it, that don't understand. And I think they have every right not to understand, because there's so much that is just hard to even process. So in any event, it's something I'll be watching, and it's something I'm actually kind of excited about, because if you could live your own life the way you wanted to without the federal government looking over your shoulder and sending strike forces to your neighborhood, yeah, I mean, count me in. I'm definitely down for that.